Hello. This is Tracy Lynn, also known as VCAT. And I am here in my Cavalier. I'm looking at some pictures I have on my smartphone of myself standing by that guardrail, or actually leaning against it, sitting against it, right over there. We're going to take a quick walk and then we're going to go somewhere else. I just want to show a little bit of the view. About 15 seconds into my music video in Dayton, Ohio, about 15 seconds into it, I show myself leaning against the guardrail. And then, of course, there's different locations. So I'm going to go to a few of those locations today. And hopefully, if there is time, I want to make a few more stops. I'm going to make my last video blog to the Life Story series. Then anything I do after this would merely be something that I decide to share as I go through life. I'm right here by a sign of one of my fetishes that I do have. Not necessarily from this company, but I love boots. And I most certainly do miss the country. I think I was sitting somewhere along this line on the guardrail, right over here. That's what I saw on the other side. And behind me, I was sitting here like thinking as I was looking over here at the interstate. See that? 75. You can see how busy it gets. So I was a little nervous to come here even this close to the interstate, despite the fact that there's guardrails and fences. There's a lot of traffic in a metro area. Very busy. So that's one of the reasons why I came here for this song video. I'm going to show you the interstate. And then we're going to head over to another set location. Hopefully it's a little bit quieter. And if you look over here, on the other side of those signs, I'll try to zoom in a little bit. That's Interstate 70. So we're kind of at the crossroads. Interstate 70 and 75. To make this video today for all kinds of reasons. There's a lot of action going on, a lot of road construction, people working on properties. You see that boot up there? With the neon sign on it. The very first time that I ever passed here, when I was staying out here, at some point I drove by it in like the evening or at night. Walmart at York Commons is on the other side here, over to my left. It would actually be in front of me when I'm sitting here on the guardrail. It would actually be almost like if you could see through all the trees. That's where York Commons Walmart is, where I used to work as a cashier in 2011 to the very beginning of 2012. I think it was like April. Even the very first time, or when I started working at York Commons, I would pass by here on a semi-regular basis. Obviously different times of the day, sometimes early in the morning, sometimes in the evening, and depending what time of year it is, the season. If it is dark, I always liked the way that it looked when you were driving by. So being that I have sort of a boot fetish, I like all kinds of boots. I wear boots. I was hoping someday to have personalized boots. I didn't realize that circumstances could be so overwhelming and so distant from that kind of reality. And anyway, that's why I wanted to have this location in my music video, because I do love boots, and I was sincerely touched by a story that I'm going to share with you a little bit later on. And one of the reasons is because I used to travel the interstates a lot, whether via car or I also drove semi-truck for a couple years. That's the guardrail right there, somewhere in that area. Okay, let's get up this hill and we'll go somewhere a little bit quieter. I just want to sit here one more time. While I was recording from 2019, and as I'm wrapping up the more recent music project of recordings and music videos, I used to take some time and go to some of the set locations, see what has changed, what stayed the same. Could I remember places I was in the video, reflect back a little bit on what I was thinking, kind of reminisce a little bit. And I was hoping that as I was wrapping everything up with my instrumental album, which is my 6th studio album, but not like fresh recordings, it's recordings of other songs that I made since 2019, instrumentalized. So I kind of muted like most of the lyrics, because I was really hoping that I could move on to new things somehow, some way, rather than just be stuck in the same form. That's why this is all interesting to me, because it started with musical endeavors, and I was probably dealing with it most of my life. But when it came to doing musical endeavors, I was attempting to do more things with music of my interest and to connect with other people of like minds who also had compatible interest. And everything turned out the way it did, and I did what I did, the majority of it in the physical world, by my lonesome. And let me tell you, I accomplished more in serving what I knew psychology-wise to serve and learned along the way. I learned that I could do more with resources than I could with humans in the majority of what I do. And a lot of it has to do with everybody's unique and individual beliefs. I always believed things could be done. It's not rocket science. And most of what I battled up against is much different than that in thought. This is why I studied psychology for over a decade. Say goodbye. Onward to the next set location. Hopefully it's a little bit quieter. So I don't know if you could hear me when I was out there talking, but one thing I wanted to say about that boot sign, which is something I was hoping to record when I was on the interstate sometime at night. I am a lover of the Christmas and the holiday seasons as we get closer to the end of the year, like many people. And one of the things that I love about Christmas is decorations and lights. I've been that way my whole life, and even that was once a struggle for me, which is not no more, as to why not a similar spirit be all year round. I mean, I struggled with, would we as a human race or individually, would we get bored with it, tired with it? Is that why it only occurs for a small season of time every year? So when I pass by facilities that have something in closeness as a display, whether it's their business sign or other decorations they have out front, to see the neon lights would be something that would grab my attention as I was traveling by and give me the opportunity in my brain to kind of reminisce and kind of psychologically come into, at least for momentarily, temporarily, as I'm going through life, the Christmas spirit, which would be a similar spirit some would describe as friendly, happy, upbeat, romantic. I don't know. It's something to witness if you ever go south on 75 from 70, and you come on the off-ramp from 70. As you see it entering in, especially once you're aware of it, that it's there, it's really nice to see. So I always wanted to stop in there. I did. I shopped around. They got lots of boots. Okay, I have arrived at the next set location, and I'm going to show some pictures quick, if you can see them. I'm over here, what I call the grass bank. This is the one bridge, and 75 goes across that bridge. That's me sitting on the grass bank. That's the bridge. And that's the double signs, but I think only one sign is showing at this time. That's me by the interstate signs. And then that's a better picture of me sitting on the grass bank, looking at Interstate 75. I want to step outside, and then I want to show you around, and then I think I have one more set location. Hopefully I can find some of these places. I think I'm getting better at finding them. It's a little more difficult depending on the set location. If I was sitting on a grass bank and there was nothing else around but the grass. So we're gonna try to do this one and see what happens. Okay, I'm standing pretty close to where I pulled the car over for a little while to step out onto the roadway. And it's the beginning of the second verse. I'm by the signs. There's only one of them here right now, but there once was two of them. I'm going to show a little bit of the video, and then I'm going to show you the set location. She opened her car door. One last here. And that would be somewhere close to here. And there's the sign. Rowe Avenue and Wagner Ford Road. Southbound is missing. I guess they're doing road construction. And when I saw the sign, I really wanted to make that part of the video. So this is where I pulled over at. I stepped out, and then I ended up parking the car somewhere else. Then I continued on with the video. The marathon is over here, and then you have the interstate and the bridge. And see how beautiful the grass bank looks? That's what captured my eye. I thought that was really nice, because it looks like the grass bank, and then you have the sky right after. You see how they connect? I thought that was attractive. And I felt if I could find a place to park the car, maybe I could come over here, being that this is, I think, a public park. I could do my video, at least part of it, over here. So let's see if we can find the place where I was sitting. I don't know how well you can see that picture right there, but I'm assuming I'm approximately there by looking at that photograph. Lots of grass on a bank. And this is what I would have seen. I'm not quite sure if it was actually a Cadillac, but I'm pretty certain that there was a car that was sitting right over there. I tried to do a little bit of research to figure out, before I did this video, like what number video that was. I don't remember if it was Personal Lake of Fire or if it was in Dayton, Ohio that I done first. Unfortunately, I was using a Sony camera that I'm using right now. Now, I don't know if it lost its original time when hitting record, when changing the name, or when you take it from the Sony camera and put it onto the computer, if it calculates that as the actual time rather than the record time. When I started to use my smartphone, I took notice each video saved it as the exact start time that you hit the record button. And then when it saves after you're done and you stop it, the properties value would have the time that it stopped recording. So you actually have the start and the stop time, which I think would be magnificent for video cameras, photo cameras, etc., so that when you tap on the record and it starts recording, it'll give you the exact time and date. It'll give you all that information. You started at this time, you stopped it at that time. I mean, it's obvious if you started at this time and the video is 2 minutes and 3 seconds, then you could probably add them together and there you go. But that's how I figure it out with my smartphone. So I started to, at some point in the later videos, not change the name of the videos as I was editing them because I didn't want to lose track of the time, because as a recording artist and going back in time to different recordings, I realized that all of that information is very beneficial to your psychology when serving whatever you're serving that may or may not have to do with that specific song or video per se, but it's included in that. So anyway, here's the grass bank. I do not want to actually sit on it and get dirty, but that's why I sat here, was because you could see the interstate. I wasn't 100% sure for quite some time. I was a little confused in the beginning because of how I heard the story on television, and then I ended up writing the song. I did not know if it happened on Interstate 70. I did not know if it happened on Interstate 75. I was thinking it was 75, but I wasn't 100% sure. And I kind of did not like that discomfort of not knowing. So in my song, I put Interstate 75 because I was pretty certain that it was. As I wrapped this video up, I started to realize that it most certainly was Interstate 75. With the information and the facts that I have, I can say I guarantee it happened on 75, which is a relief to me because I did not want to mess that part up in my song, as bizarre as that may seem. Maybe I'll explain a little bit more of that later on. Anyway, I was nervous in doing my first few videos. I never made music videos before. I didn't know what all was involved in it. I didn't know how to go about, do you lip sync? Do you actually sing? So therefore, I would assume you would have to be extremely familiar with the lyrics and the words and exactly the way it's being said for it to come across nicer in the music videos. I wasn't sure what kind of technology to use. I could only get my hands on what I thought that I could. I never knew how it was going to turn out, and I would just like to say that the infantry stages for me were nerve-wracking. Obviously, as you can hear when I'm speaking, there's a lot of noise. And how I ended up doing music, as I shared in my life story, and how I came to being confused as to what is my part when doing music. And as a songwriter, am I just a songwriter, or does it end up me being a co-writer in a band or with a friend, if you would? How does this translate? How does this happen in my life? Does it ever come to be anything more than what I etched down on paper, per se? And as time went on and my circumstances were quite challenging, a lot of times, as I said in my videos, out of sheer boredom and not knowing what else to do, definitely wanting to do other things, not being able to afford to do other things, having a hard time dealing with other psychology, I would have to say to myself that I am extremely proud of myself for these circumstances, even that I'm squatting down in, were not easy for me with all the knowledge I had, not just about music, but awareness of the world around me and Americans, the difficulties of living day to day, my upbringing all the way into hearing many people's testimonies, hearing about tragedies, my strive to want to live life, to make life count somehow. I had a whole lot of things going on in my head, a lot more than that. When you start to do something out here, you don't know what might be coming up over that grass bank. So at that time, I'm here and I'm alone. And it was the very infantry stages of me learning, how do you make a music video? What's your approach? And we hear many times of people speaking and saying to use what you got. Some people already have things, some people do not have anything. Some people, like myself, wanted nothing to do with technology for all kinds of reasons. I brought up before I was raised Pennsylvania Dutch. That does not mean that other people force their beliefs on me. That means I established in my own brain different beliefs that evidently people in metro cities and abroad the country think much differently. Some people get off on technology and they love it. Some people might not be there yet. Some people truly wanted to embrace and live a real, genuine life, not necessarily a difficult one. Didn't have no clue as to what life is. No matter how many times I read the Bible, you're trying to figure things out, and you're dealing with a lot of different people's beliefs. And the difference between people seeking inspiration for life and people manipulating masses of people with the Bible is completely, entirely different. Okay, I'm not trying to get a dollar bill from you. If I need one, I guarantee you I would not hesitate telling you the truth. I wouldn't warp your brain to make you think shame on you if you don't give me something for my ministry. And that's how mega churches are. They want you to believe you're damned if you don't help them out financially, and that's why you're in pain and suffering with your own finances. If you don't believe me, go back and listen to any one of their sermons. It's the exact same sermon through every one of their mouths. The reason why you're in pain and suffering and you're hurting with your finances is because you're not generous with them. What if the person doesn't even have any? You know, it's really funny when you read the Bible says you have nothing to give unless it's given to you. Makes sense to me. A hell of a lot more sense than the reason you don't have in that area is because you don't give in that area. If God doesn't give you grace, you don't have grace to give someone else. But these people know. And let's face it, when you turn on the TV, masses of people are listening to them and sending them money all the time. Hell, the government's helping them out so they can expand their church. Surely there's no corruption going on between the two of those. I did the video. I was really nervous. I ended up kind of like moving on to other things. The brain, as you're focusing on other things, the other matters that you once done, kind of dissolve a little bit, you know? They're not the dominancy in your brain at the time. And somehow, some way, when I moved into my apartment over here, with me not really knowing where I am geographically overall, having to do a lot of research to find things, different routes. I was very dependent on the GPS rather than being born and raised in your hometown and you're familiar because you rode bike, you walked, you drove muscle cars, and you stayed within a box environment, so to speak, within so many square mileage, and you pretty much were raised learning street names, where everything is. Huge difference. I ended up somehow, some way, eventually coming either down this way, or did I end up taking a turn and coming down the other way? Whichever way it was the first time around, later times on, I started to realize, oh my goodness, this is the in Dayton, Ohio set location, one of them, that I sat here and made the video. And during that time, a lot of the area started slowly to look more and more familiar. I realized the marathon over here. And there once used to be a building over here, because this is where I ended up parking my car. And because it didn't take too long into making music videos, that it seems something gets upset. And if something looks a little bit unusual to somebody, it'll strike curiosity to them, and either they might approach you and ask you what you're doing, or they may even scream at you to get you out of here. I was really hoping that the company that was here would not be upset. I didn't want to have my car in the video except for when I opened up the door and I stepped out on the street. The rest of it, I wanted to capture, which is what I always do when I'm doing any kind of videos, is I try to be more focused on myself, so hopefully I don't upset anybody or anything. It is very difficult if somebody does not want to be seen in a video. If anyone did show up, I know my very, very first ones when I was doing stuff in Cincinnati and stuff, as laid back of a person as I am, it's not that I was trying to be inconsiderate, it's just that no matter what you do, you're being watched somehow, some way. I myself, most of the time, do not care. I'd have to be going through some serious stuff, so with that in mind, I think sometimes maybe some other people are going through some serious stuff and they just don't want to be on camera. So I try very desperately to respect that. So one of the things I hope when I'm making my video is that I'm not disturbing anyone, offending anyone, and hopefully, nobody will do the same to me. Because I try to do what I'm doing, get packed up, and get going. Because I know that in doing this, which was a surprise to me, I did not expect to do as many music videos as I did. I tried to wrap things up as quickly as I can. I had said many times I wanted to record my music, as much of it as I could, by the time I was 50, because I came into a whole lot of strong realization. Parked my car over there. I brought some of my stuff over here, and I was kind of like sort of staggering around myself, not knowing where is a good place to be, what's underneath. I know more about this soil than you can imagine. I used to work with a crew in Maryland, and we used to sample soil, so I know a little bit of what's in the ground. I also was raised, and I used to actually have a real backyard that you could actually walk in your bare feet a majority of the time. So if you're not careful, there's sharp stones, okay? There's anthills, there's all kinds of things that you could end up sitting on, especially along the roadway, trash, etc., etc. As I was putting this together as fast as I could, the goal was to come over here, do the video, and move on to the next set location, and be as safe as I could without disturbing the environment. When I go out to set location stuff, I try to make sure that I'm not videotaping things that I feel others might not want included in the video. So that's why I was here on the grass bank. That's what you see is that in the interstate. I thought that was absolutely gorgeous when I sat down there and filmed. I want to say one more thing before I go. It wasn't too long into the recordings thereafter. I don't remember what year it was, but for a few times, as it was pixeling in, I started realizing more and more, and I would take drives back and forth this road every once in a while just to pass by and see the set location. Sometimes I'd turn around, go back through again, just to see it, and then I'd go on the interstate and then wherever it is I was going that day, whether to a food pantry in town, etc. I just kind of reminisce, think about it, might even play the song when I'm passing by. At some point, I forget what year it is, I did not look, but a tornado came through here and it took out the building. I don't know if it necessarily took it out or knocked it down, what happened. I noticed there's things missing. I don't know how much damage was done around here. I would just like to say that I'm sorry to everyone that it affected, who was hurt by it. Traffic has slowed down. Okay, it's still pretty much as I remember it here on the grass. When I was doing that video, I wish I would have remembered which number it was, if it was number 2, like after Personal Lake of Fire, or if it was before it. But I do remember feeling sad, confused as to how to go about doing it. A lot of the time while I was doing the video, I wanted to do it because I knew it's what I ultimately would have liked to do similar with recordings. I mean, at least 1 or 2 videos, right? So these are some of the things that were going through my head while I was doing it, which, in my opinion, actually contributed to the music video because of the tempo. Got a lot going on here, so if I don't sound too upbeat, I'd have to say I'm sorry. I'm trying to stay chipper. Okay? Looky what I got. Is that okay? Let's see. At some point, when I was driving through the neighborhood, I came up here to look at what was on the other side of the bank. And I saw the swing sets. And a basketball court. I like to go to playgrounds. I have not gone for quite some time, but there's some nice ones, you know, here in the Dayton area. And when I have time, or I decide I'm gonna make time, I go and I check them out, and sometimes I swing. Seldom go down a sliding board, just because I don't wanna get dirty at the time. But I love to pass time and think, relax, and shoot a few hoops, dribble the ball a little bit, reflect. And I came up here the one time, I think it was to turn around, because I saw there was an auto body shop up the road, and the clear coat on my car has been peeling for quite some time. I wanted to get a picture of the place so I could call and see what kind of prices they have. because it's been a long time since I talked to anybody who did auto body work. And sometimes people give, swell deals, and other times not so swell. And I used to love wearing a flower in my hair. And the person I was living with while in Huber Heights and Beaver Creek, I used to say often, because I came into realizations, when I look at my life since 1972, my little tiny brain is coming into different acknowledgments. The more that I surrender to the truth, though I always appreciated flowers and landscapes for different reasonings, and I was also a landscaper, I didn't necessarily like working specifically with flowers and flower beds, etc. But I had an appreciation for plants and different kinds of bushes throughout my life. It's also probably the way that I was raised, as them being a living existence with feelings, and I was raised to be mindful of that. When you're around other plants and flowers, be considerate and maybe even conversate with them. I came into loving flowers. I don't praise raising flowers for this specific reasoning. There are flower stores that sell like a dozen of roses, or you can get a stem rose in different colors. I didn't even know. I was unfamiliar with how many different colors there is with roses. I don't know that much about flowers themselves. It is definitely interesting when I hear other people speak about it. I pay attention, though I cannot say that that information necessarily sticks with me, but I do appreciate it a lot. Though somebody has interest in flowers, I will also find them interesting as they're sharing about flowers. I feel sorry for flowers and how they're used by humans, depending. And I try not to make a big deal about it, because when I see flowers and they're just sitting there like in a store or something, I would have to say that I feel for that. And I used to at times talk to them a little bit, smell them, give them my sympathy. How's that? Sometimes I would go on the other side of what I did not want to contribute to, and I might get one for myself to wear in my hair. Because the difficulties at times of finding what would be perceived as an artificial or a fake flower to wear, I still did from time to time, because it made me feel a little bit more at ease with myself when I would put a flower in my hair and I'd go about my day. Okay, but I am what some people would say just as guilty in some aspects, some ways, when I see flowers. I don't understand every single thing. Maybe somebody could give me a little piece here. That's PEACE. I would see this. And I would notice. Would you say, are they dying? Are they fading away for the season? When you see them blossom. I wanted to stop by here once I knew that there was flowers. Like over here, some flower bushes. And I wasn't quite sure. The park kind of looked like it might have been abandoned, but it was still being used. So I didn't know how often it was being used. I didn't know if anybody's coming up here on a regular basis and making use of the park, what they're doing here with the plants and stuff like that. But I pulled alongside in my car, and I got out and I thought I have to have one, because they are absolutely gorgeous. And I kind of browsed through a little bit, and I found a really nice one, and I asked it to come with me, and I took it and put it in my hair, and I felt more whole. And one of the reasons is when I was living in Huber Heights, Beaver Creek, I came into realizing I don't necessarily want to raise my flowers for this specific reasoning, but I thought it would be really nice if there were some flowers in the yard that on occasion, if I wanted to, hopefully without any guilt, I could pick a flower and put it in my hair, or flower arrangement for like the kitchen table or what have you. I think flowers are absolutely beautiful. And I think in many ways they contribute to your psychology, to mine. I like to see myself happy I like to see myself decorated. I like to see myself with something real, not necessarily artificial. Though I limit myself when I see a beautiful flower bush, I will pull over and hopefully I can sneak one, put it in my hair. I used to like to play with one by the nut on my acoustic guitar, especially for special occasions. And I haven't done that too often because a lot of it is my circumstances. I don't necessarily get off on doing that, but I often have said if I had a home, I would want some sort of flower bushes, is that what it's called? Flower bed, that at least on occasion I could pick one up and put one in my hair. Take some of my yard with me, is that it? And put one in my guitar when I play. For some reason it makes me a lot happier when I'm playing, to look at that, to see that. I think it's attractive. I think it's decorative. Okay, so I pulled up here. I really like this white picket fence and the stone drive and the park. And I felt, I didn't know if this park was being used that much anymore. I saw the flowers and it was the time of year that it was. I thought, would it upset anyone if I grabbed one for my hair before I drove away? But today, when I was over here, I remembered that moment. I did try to contact the auto body shop down the road. I thought it was a really cute sign on it, and his little car looked like a cartoon. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a hold of nobody. I don't know if they closed down or what have you, or changed their number. But anyway, I got myself a flower today. It looked like they're kind of thinning out for the year. I got a really nice one. Hopefully it does not upset anyone. And I would like to say thank you. I'm probably lucky if I wear a flower in my hair 2 or 3 times a year anymore. A lot of it is psychology and the dominancy if you're serving your passions, your desires, etc., while holding fast to every word of God. Meanwhile, the same people who preach the sermons probably have flower gardens because they're fucking assholes. They'll tell you this is not important, and then we'll walk into a very high-end psychological facility where they have beautiful flowers and waterfalls on the landscape. Okay? Do you think there are people who have a tendency to use the Word of God to hammer nails deep into the floorboard? I think that makes sense.